Well, I mean, there could be worse appointments for Haas, but they just signed a letter. Hey there folks, and welcome to this video. Here I'm talking about the news that Nikita Mazepin has been signed by Haas for the 2021 F1 season. This is expected to be the first of two rookies announced for Haas. The second one is widely anticipated to be Mick Schumacher, but we haven't seen any announcement for that yet. In this video I'm going to be talking a bit more about Mazepin himself, and giving my own kind of verdict on him before he arrives in F1, because I think with someone like Mazepin, with the profile he has, that is worth talking about. Before I get into my own personal verdict, I would recommend checking out an article by Will Pierce on Drive Tribe. It's titled Nikita Mazepin, What's All the Fuss About? And I think it details it quite well. So Mazepin will be coming into F1 as what we consider a pay driver. For those of you unaware of that, it's where he's not necessarily being given it purely on his talent, but also the kind of money that he brings into the team is being considered. It's kind of hard to avoid in F1 these days. People, quote-unquote, buying their ways into seats. I mean, the likes of Lando Norris come in with a wealthy background. Max Verstappen got Red Bull links through his father, Jos. Carlos Sainz Jr., Red Bull links through his father, Carlos Sainz Sr. And yeah, Mazepin's no different. Dmitry Mazepin owns the Uralchem chemicals company, and as a result also carries other kinds of sponsorship money. Uralkali, I think, is the name of one of them, and potentially even the likes of SMP. So he does carry dad's money with him. And that's why at an age, 3 weeks younger than me, he's able to be an F1 driver next season. Especially when, if you look at his junior career, he's had real kind of on years and off years. And this year's been more of an on year, but last year, even in F2, that was an off year. And this Drive Tribe article compares him to Victor Vries. I believe he was alongside. But I think for me, Mazepin's off-track behaviour is the thing that I think about more. I've done a video about him and also Valtteri Bottas making edgy jokes in regards to the ongoing pandemic. And that's not the first time that Mazepin's found himself in hot water for some of his comments. Recently, he made similar kind of jokes about George Russell. On George Russell's Instagram, it was a joke that revolved around him coming out. Now, George Russell, as far as I'm aware, hasn't discussed his sexuality publicly. The coming out is an inference that George Russell was gay. And the way in which Mazepin's done that has negative connotations. And as a member of the LGBT+ community, I know how that can feel. Like, I know how being outed could feel. Actually, let me talk about this a little bit. So, I've been doing daily videos since 2014. I think in one of my very first videos I discussed my sexuality. And I didn't realise that I'd never really done a kind of coming out, to say, until I made an edgy joke about my sexuality at school. And then it just goes around like wildfire, and you get all of these inappropriate questions, and it's unhelpful. But yeah, if somebody was to do that to me, that would be quite horrible. Especially if I was in an arena full of toxic masculinity like Formula 1. But, I mean, you also have to think about the fact that Mazepin has got two kind of environments that would protect him from being exposed to not being horrible to members of a certain community. He's a Russian driver. So there's the motorsport community problem of it, but also growing up in Russia is another problem to it. I mean, Vitaly Petrov, who's a former F1 driver from Russia, made homophobic remarks this year and was still very nearly appointed a steward. Well, he was appointed a steward, but he wasn't able to sit as a steward. But Russia is the country where you have so much widespread rampant homophobia. Not necessarily in terms of state legislature, but more in terms of culture and how people treat the LGBT plus community. But then I'm not saying like anywhere is a particularly great country for records on that. I mean, I've faced my fair share of homophobia here in the UK. But it's not ideal. But in addition to all of this, there's the fact that there are allegations of sexual misconduct against Mazepin and evidence of assault. In 2016, he was banned from one race of 3 at a Hungaroring event for assaulting Callum Ilott. And yeah, that's not a good image. And this is somebody who doesn't necessarily appear to have evolved from that. Maybe he's decided that his way of, as I would probably say, and it's a bit rude, being a dick, has evolved from physically assaulting people to just having a way with words. But a lot of the edgier people I've seen on my Twitter today have been making some kind of reference to him knocking it out of the park or beating Ilott to an F1 seat. And yeah, that's edgy. That's probably the kind of edgy kind of humour that belongs when you're discussing Nikita Mazepin. But in all honesty, somebody get this guy a PR agent. And somebody in F1, please, if you're serious about We Racers 1, this guy's coming into your sport. Get him to publicly apologise. Otherwise, I mean, we know that your image of Re-Racers 1 has got all kinds of problems, because if you announced a race in Saudi Arabia, you haven't really committed to any kind of strategy. You can't even get 20 drivers to kneel in a display against racism, because, you know, some of them are actually racist, and you're not going to hold them to account to it, despite them showing up as racists, wearing shirts saying end racism. Yeah. You're not going to do that. So, there's my thoughts, and if you got all this way, thank you for watching. See you around.